for us to be able to open, we definitely had to wait for the biggest part of the storm to be over, if you like.
I said to Flo, I was like,
this time.
I don't know how happy you are. I think we can maybe do something a lot more interesting with our lives here.
People who work in the hospitality industry don't just want to work anywhere. They want to make sure that it's a nice environment, that they've got the appropriate pay, they're looked after.
Spitalfields was always a location that I would have loved, but never deemed possible. We were looking at a site nearby, cycle by, and I remember saying to Florian as I took a video of it from outside, I was like, this is designed to be a salad bar. It literally is like our shape, exactly, all glass.
We tried every salad in London. We tried lots of salads all over the world. One thing that we really thought is that we wanted a menu that had hot ingredients and hot components. Although we divide some of the work to an extent, we both look at everything because there's always a bit of like, no mate, you're going off on one here, we don't need that, we need this, etc.
Yeah.
And that works very nicely.
Our eating habits are changing. We're demanding better dining experiences, and the food market has never been so competitive. Starting and succeeding with a food business is challenging, but some determined and passionate entrepreneurs are flourishing. These people have big dreams, big passion, and big drive. They are disruptors, change makers, and innovators. They see a positive future. Many say that food business is too risky. Some say that it has huge rewards. Are you up for the challenge? In this episode, I sat down with Florian and James from a new concept in London called the Salad Project. So these guys launched actually during COVID. They found their site a day before lockdown started. And in this episode, it's more focused on the startup journey. So in terms of developing the concept, finding a site and launching. And there's lots of insights to be gained from this episode, really in terms of persistence and getting through the challenges of those early stages. And these guys, they had to close the restaurant after only a month of trading due to some issues with their ventilation in the site. So it's really a story of persistence and ingenuity and just getting through those stages and just keep going. And now they're actually coming out the other side. It's looking quite positive for them. There's also lots of learnings, and I think it kind of feeds throughout the episode. It's the attention to detail in everything they've created. So from the brand, the logo, the site itself, and the experience of people walking through it, and just general flow of the consumer, through to the food and the sourcing of ingredients, sustainability, and the offering itself, how to attract as many people as possible. So really great guys, very fun to be around as well. And I think they've created something really fantastic that is set up for success. So sit back, enjoy the Salad Project. So I think this is the first interview we've had with someone who's launched during COVID. So fair play and kudos to you in the first place.
Thank you.
How has that experience been? I'm sure it's been quite crazy. So how's it been kind of launching during COVID, and how's it been since?
I mean, it's not been easy and it's been long. I think there are probably two parts to this answer. We had to wait for COVID to happen, really. So yes, we launched during COVID because the pandemic hasn't quite finished now, and when we opened back in May, it definitely hadn't finished. But for us to be able to open, we definitely had to wait for the biggest part of the storm to be over, if you like. And from a personal level, that was tricky, and that was really long. When you quit your job to start a passion project of yours, and you take a great amount of risk in itself, just by the nature of the project, and then you get hit with that kind of thing. It's pretty tough.
So had you planned to launch like pre-COVID and you were delayed?
So we quit our jobs at pretty bad times in terms of how to spend the next year and a half. You quit in November 2019, and I quit in July 2019.
Okay, just pre-COVID.
Yeah. But in terms of like actual COVID, since we've been opened, I mean, we've been very lucky we haven't had any kind of outbreak, which has been really, because I mean, you'd have to close, which we've been lucky enough to avoid. And I think the biggest impact obviously is just we feel very good when we feel the office's workers are there, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Sure.
But outside of that, you do feel it a lot. But I mean, I think when we were planning on opening, and we always joke about how there's a little kind of North Star above our head, because we were, at some point we were thinking, okay, well, back in 2020, we were like, okay, well, let's open in August. It's all done. I remember the real estate agent being like, we were like, can we have a COVID clause? And he was like, there's not going to be another lockdown. Like, we're past that.
Yeah.
And obviously, you were the first battle of many. So.
Okay. Yeah. And how did you find, like, even getting contractors and staff during that time? Because it was so kind of wild and up and down.
I mean, I think it was tough, and I think the process of finding a unit, getting it fitted out, ready to open, took way longer than it normally would in normal times, just because the world was going at snail slow speed. So that was just took ages. And then in terms of staffing, I mean, it's tricky. You've heard about the staffing crisis, but I think we've been very lucky ourselves, because I think it's two things. One, because James and I are so involved operationally, because we're there every single day and we're partaking in everything that needs to be done from an operational perspective to get the business running, it means that we're able to train staff, and so we're able to take on staff that are maybe younger and less experienced. And I suspect a big chain of restaurants have more difficulties because they don't have two founders there who are ready to do anything to get the business moving, right?
Sure.
So that's allowed us to have students who are working part-time who have zero experience, and we train them up.
Yeah, and I think it's, in terms of kind of to the point, contractor-wise, our naivety of how long it would take meant that it was all lined up on who's going to do what for ages, and thankfully they just all kind of bit their tongue while we kept pushing them back. Yeah. So it was okay with that side. We had a project manager who held our hand and everything.
Sure.
And then, in terms of staffing, we got lucky that when we opened, it was beginning of school holidays and summer. So we piled on quite a lot of university summer holiday bodies.
Sure.
And they now all kind of, instead of doing 5 days over summer, they now do 2 or 3 days a week.
Okay.
And I mean, we have a lot of, I think, kind of personal connections who've reached out being like, I'm in between this and that, can I do a month, 2 months? Okay. Which I think you don't get at a kind of big chain, because you just, you don't have that, you're not going to ask a chain that. Yeah. So, we do have lots of people coming in for 2 months and stuff, but every time so far when that's happened, they've ended up staying a lot longer. Okay. Which is good.
Very good, very good. I think hopefully you'll reap the rewards now, because I'm sure a lot of new concepts will start kind of coming out of COVID. But you've established yourself obviously during it, so now hopefully you can kind of hit the ground running and then kind of kick on from that point. Yeah, so almost ahead of the curve a little bit potentially.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, I think that what the staffing crisis has shown and demonstrated is that people are picky. Increasingly picky. People who work in the hospitality industry don't just want to work anywhere. They want to make sure that it's a nice environment, that they've got the appropriate pay, that they're looked after well enough, etc. And I think that at the Salad Project, with James, we've managed to create a very friendly atmosphere for our staff, and I think that transpires, and I think that gets out somehow. Sure. And I've noticed, I think maybe through our social media or through the way we interact, or through the kind of like tone of voice that we use and things like that, I think people have realised that, okay, working at the Salad Project is quite fun, and and you've got 2 young guys who are around and who make it a nice, pleasant atmosphere, and I think, as you say, that hopefully that will benefit us moving forward.
Sure, very good. And when you launched, did you start doing deliveries or meal kits or something like that straight away, or did you just focus on walk-in trade?
We almost did a dark kitchen for like 3 months beforehand, but again, I'm very glad that we didn't, because we thought we were going to do it for a month before the store would open, but basically if we did it then, it would have been 4.5 months of doing it, which might have been a bit intense in like a shared kitchen. Yeah. with just me and him, and no actual chef, and it probably wouldn't have been the best start from a brand.
No.
But yeah, so no, we did a small, 2 or 3 days before opening with the team where we just did delivery and stuff. But no, we never did meal kits or anything like that.
Okay, very good. Yeah, great. So let's then go back to your early career.
Yeah.
I know you both have studied hospitality and worked in hospitality, kind of in the general sector. How did that passion come about? Like, was it there from a very early age, or was it something you fell into, or just kind of grew as you kind of developed?
And for me, I think that there was always a desire from a very young age to do something maybe a little bit different. Being French and having lots of family in Europe, the university that James and I met at and went to has a relatively good reputation in Europe, and I think people know it. And somehow, age 12, 13. I'd heard about that uni, and I think I kind of was clued in already into what it meant, what you did, what kind of doors it might open for you, etc. And so, very weirdly, from a very young age, I was like, I want to go to that uni.
Okay.
Which is quite strange, really, because it's not often you meet a 12-year-old who knows which uni they want to go to. But I think it is because it has hospitality in general. This uni specifically has a very international side aspect to it, and having an Italian father, a French mother, being brought up in England. I arrived here at the age of 11 and stuff. So I was very used to being very independent very quickly and very international quite quickly. And I think the international aspect of hospitality must have attracted me, and kind of that's what brought me there. And in life, I personally enjoy showing people a good time, and in hospitality, you get to do that on a daily basis. So that's kind of what brought me there.
Okay, makes sense.
It doesn't have quite a good reputation in England, so
no reputation. It doesn't have a bad reputation. There's no reputation.
No one's ever heard of it.
Yeah.
For me, it was kind of it was a combination of like coming out of school, being like, I haven't exactly nailed my A levels where it's clear what I can do in some other field, but it's so it was kind of like what else might interest me, and. My dad had spent some time in Switzerland working and had a few friends whose children had gone to his school.
Okay.
And so, it got floated about as an idea. And then so I was like, okay, well, I'll go do a 3-month internship at a nice restaurant nearby and see if I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And just really did. And, then in hindsight, it makes a lot of sense for me when I think about it for myself. I always enjoyed, doing kind of like dinners for my parents, even though I'm not a chef, but just kind of be creating experiences for people.
Sure.
I really enjoyed, and I always kind of asked, really annoying questions about why do hotels work such as this when I was like 7 or 8, and so it's not a very common route for English people to head out there.
Yeah.
But I'm very glad that I did.
Okay. It sounds like both of you kind of get the fulfillment of kind of serving people or
Definitely.
making people happy, really.
100%.
Which is like the core of hospitality. Obviously.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's how, and the only reason why the Salad Project was able to come to life is because I guess we share
the same kind of core beliefs.
Yeah. I mean, we enjoy it. From as someone might enjoy an Excel document, and get a kick out of getting a balance sheet to balance.
Yeah.
James and I will enjoy creating great customer experiences.
Sure, makes sense.
Well, it's quite nice. It's pretty organic in terms of I'm very confident in when Flo's dealing with a situation that it would be exactly what I would have done, and I'd like to think it's the same way.
Yeah.
And so I think it's something we feed off on each other. And you notice that with other members of staff who just join and they're just not quite in that same mindset straight from the beginning. So.
Sure. Well, I guess it helps that you're both educated in the same place for such a relatively long period of time.
Yeah, no,
your foundation is almost quite similar.
Completely. My only, I'm 27 now. I started working summer jobs, internships, whatever, age probably 18. So 10 years of professional experience. I've never worked at anywhere else than a hospitality establishment in different forms, right? Hotels, restaurants, hotel chains, and groups, corporate level, etc. But so plus 5 years of studying hospitality with James. So
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I mean, I think there's a DNA there that's very much, I think we understand each other and we have exactly the same experiences. So
Sure, makes sense.
That's a great strength for us as a team.
Sure. I'm interested to know, you mentioned the corporate level roles there. I know James worked in Expedia for a couple of years. You were in LVMH. How did that benefit you, kind of looking back now, kind of taking it into this? I know it's kind of hospitality and food focused, but I know you're ambitious and you're looking to grow a structure. Do you think that's benefited you at this stage, or do you think it's kind of more for the future?
And the chance anyone at Expedia sees this, I've got to be careful. Expedia, I mean, they had it was an incredibly fun work culture. So I'd take that away from it in terms of, I think people stayed there a lot longer than they maybe would based on the work, based on the kind of environment of the place. And I think I've taken that into our team here, I guess, in terms of, occasionally I'll, cut some slack in order for, because I mean, having those kind of moments on a 9-hour shift where you all sit down and you kind of, laugh about a specific something that's happened to one of the team members, and it's all fun and games, I think, makes the next 2 hours of cleaning a lot better.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Away.
Okay.
I think for my part, when I worked for LVMH, it was their hotel management side. So obviously LVMH own lots of luxury brands, and the only brand they've ever created themselves was their hotels, because all the others are acquisitions, right? So I think what I've taken away from there is just an insane level of they have an insane level of attention to detail, and they push. I mean, they're the definition of luxury, right? So they have the most luxurious brands on earth. So there's no one who understands it better than they do, right? And so what that means is that is shown in everything that they do, the attention to detail, the rigor, although we're a salad bar, we're not a 5-star hotel. What James and I have always said is we want to try as much as we can on have a great attention to detail in the context of a salad bar, right? Of a day-to-day eatery. And so I guess what it taught me is just kind of be very diligent and realize that every single detail matters, whether that's from the food that we offer, that from the experience that we try and create, from the design of the store, from the level of service, the interactions with our customers, the cleanliness, etc. So I guess that's helped me in that sense. Yeah,
which all feeds into the brand obviously as well, creating the strength and depth in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've always tried we always kind of joke to say that there's no reason why 5-star experiences should be reserved to luxury hotels as well.
Sure.
You can apply it in a different way, in your own way, in a day-to-day establishment like the Salad Project. And the entire focus that James and I bring, and I think that's mainly due to all of our kind of combined experiences, we try and create as nice a customer experience as possible from the moment you enter to when you leave.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
So then what inspired you to chuck in the corporate jobs and start the Salad Project? How did you kind of come together, or how did that vision develop?
I think it was, I guess I ran out of patience first.
Okay.
To put it one way.
You had a head start there.
Yeah.
So is this something you were talking about, even in university or college, that you would start something together?
Yeah, James and I have thrown some stinkers of ideas a lot.
Yeah. There's some swings and some misses.
Yeah.
But it was kind of I think I first had a realization where I was just I'm really not happy doing what I'm doing. I feel like a very small fish in a huge pond, and can't find any smaller fish to feed on. And so I said to Flo, I was like, I don't know how happy you are, but you don't seem over the moon.
Yeah.
So I think we can maybe do something a lot more interesting with our lives here.
Yeah.
And fundamentally we are not chefs, right? So it was never going to be how we were never going to create 25 cover restaurant in Soho that just blew people's mind of the level of culinary expertise that me and Flo have. We're just never going to be able to do that. So it was always kind of going to be concept focused for us. And I, in my office job, had greatly experienced, I think, a lack of healthy food options near me up in Angel. There was a respectfully lovely-ish Lithuanian salad bar kind of tucked around the corner, and then Pret, right? And, Pret salads, I think they're great from 12 to 12:30, but when you're back again having a ham and cheese. And so straight away that was something I said to her, I was like, I think London can do better in this. And I think we can really vastly improve the offering that currently is available.
Yeah, it's kind of putting two and two together, because once James raised that flag, we always laughed at it when we always laughed. Is anyone ever going to ask us one day whose idea it was? And I think this is probably the first time we put it on record. It was James's idea. Okay. But yeah, when James was like, "Look, there are no good salad bars in London," my immediate reaction was like, "Really? Come on, dude! It's London.
Yeah.
Come on, salad bars. It's not exactly. You're not talking to me about the next, food revolution here."
Yeah.
But he was like, "Trust me, have a look. There are no good salad bars in London." And so I kind of started having a look, and obviously, as I mentioned, I'm from France, so I know what the scene is in Paris. I've also travelled the world, and travelled in Europe and travelled in the States, and seen that pretty much every established city has at least 1, 2, 3, if not more, established salad chains that do well and serve a purpose. And then so kind of like realization: A, I'm bored in my job, and it's not ticking all the boxes. B, I'm not really getting the impression that I'm putting into practice everything that I've learned at university, and I'm not really giving it a real shot. C, I've got my good pal James here who feels the same, and we've always joked about doing something together. Yeah. There are no, and we've got an idea that we feel could really work, and so it was incredibly easy to quit my job and to kind of start this. Yeah.
So straight away, so you have the idea, both of you decide to quit, or was there a period of development or testing, or?
We had a slight period where we met both after work, and did a lot of, in hindsight, stupid exercises. Kind of.
Such as?
It was. I guess. How do you justify what it was for? I guess it was fundamentally to our families that were not insane.
Okay. Which is pretty normal.
Pretty normal, right? But it was. It was from variations from me saying, "Well, I'd like to work with Flo," to here's the cost.
You're definitely insane.
Here's the cost of all the best salad places in London. This is their reviews and they're bad, and all of that stuff. So we did that for like 2 months, kind of.
It's all useful stuff, right? Because it's all a journey. Yeah. It's kind of like sure. Looking back now on this value matrix
that we report up daily, and be like, well, we're still here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That value matrix that we created, like comparing ourselves to the few little healthy places around here. Sure. You're not like, oh, thank God. Okay, checking it on a daily basis, but it gets you somewhere. We had this really funny exercise, which is it's slightly sweet, also a little bit cringe, where we decided, me and him in a room, we're like, right, well, why don't you write a paragraph about why you want to work with me and you think it'd be a good idea, and I'll do the same. And we brought it up again on our Instagram the other day, because it's obviously very Insta friendly.
Awkwardly third person.
Yeah. People love this kind of like slightly cheesy stuff, and my God, it's so cringy. But anyways,
our parents and family must have been like, cut the crap, guys. I see you guys.
So it's like, why you love each other pretty much.
Exactly.
I love you more.
And they were like, it was literally that. And they were just like, guys, we want to know why, what business you want to open and how it's going to work.
Okay. Well, sounds good. And you did some market research as well. Out there. So some important stuff, valuable stuff. Makes sense.
I think we ate every salad we wanted to try in London.
Yeah.
For a period of 2-3 months.
No, definitely. Or probably longer, and we still do it.
Sounds good. So then how did you put flesh to the bones? How did you start developing that concept and coming up with the name and the offering and so on?
Well, I guess the first thing we did was kind of I guess branding wise. But when I say did it, I mean completely got it wrong first time.
Yeah, we had an awful name that
Yeah.
we changed to.
And it was a moment where, like, I think for me it was we had a friend visit. And she was like, "Are you guys really doing this? Like, what exactly are you doing?" And we were like, "Yeah, it's gonna be like a salad bar." She was like, "What's the name?" And like me and Flo both like looked at each other and like, "You say it." Which is obviously not exactly what you want to be kind of your vibe you want to do before you put that on the high street.
Yeah.
So
can I ask what that name was?
Yeah. So obviously we're called the Salad Project now.
Yeah.
And we were called Project S.
Okay.
And gets worse.
Okay.
So obviously seasonality, sustainability and sourcing is paramount to the Salad Project, right?
Yeah.
We make sure that our ingredients, we have a menu that changes every 3 months, is in season. We, make sure that we source in the right way, locally English products, in-season products, etc. And of course, sustainability is key to our business and it's kind of everywhere in everything that we do. But we kind of, these are given these days. I mean, of course you're going to be sustainable and seasonal when you're opening a salad bar. That's not a point of differentiation. We live in an era where, we don't want to do greenwashing, as they call it. It's everyone's doing that. You should be doing that. If you're not doing it, what the hell are you doing?
It's not something to shout about, really.
It's not something to shout about. It's not really even something to be that proud about, right?
Yeah.
So, but it took us a while to realize that. So when we were called Project S, we wanted to be Project S for sustainability, sourcing, seasonality.
Okay.
And that was going to be like, our whole brand was going to be built around those three things. And then eventually we sat down one day and we literally couldn't tell our mates what the name was because we were too cringed out. So that's a bad start.
Yeah.
B, we kind of like, what was the second thing? Yeah, and then we kind of sat down and we were like, okay, what is it that we're going to create that's going to make our customers want to come back Monday to Friday every day, And then we were like, do we think it's because we do seasonal menu? Is that really what's going to bring them back every day? Are they going to be like, oh, it's 12:15, oh, seasonality, yes. We were like, no. What's going to make them come back is a delicious salad, right?
Yeah.
And so we kind of like, that's when we had this kind of big moment this afternoon where we felt back then that the sky was falling down on us because we already had kind of a logo and like we had a website and like frankly we were so early in the stages it did not matter at all. But back then it felt huge.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we were like, right, see ya, Project S. We dumped it and then took us a few days and then.
No, honestly, it was that afternoon. I remember we were walking out of his house and like I was about to catch a train and I was like, why not? S was so elusive and like, frankly, pathetic. And so I was like, why not Project Salad? And like, I was like, is that better? And then Flo was like, what about Salad Project? And we were like, yeah, that sounds way better.
But Project S is almost like mysterious. You're almost not telling the market what you're doing in a sense.
Exactly.
Like, come and find out yourself.
I mean, it sounds like something really douchey anyway. So.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, I think that the fact that we have the word salad in our name has been so useful, especially on like Deliveroo and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's quite clear. People think in categories in terms of food. So you decide what to eat. It's a burger, pizza, salad, whatever it is. Yeah, so having that in your name, you're there.
Burger,
yeah, completely. Yeah, 100%. And I think Project S sounded a little bit like some kind of software.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah. So what does project mean in that name? So is that the sustainability bit coming into it, or is it something bigger than that?
I guess it's. I don't really know how. I guess it came from the project of, I guess me and Flo mainly, and our journey on that.
Yep.
But I think also, project is, how do you bring people together to improve something? That for us, that's kind of what it gets at.
And is that internally focused, or is it consumers as well, or community, or all of the above?
I guess it's a bit of everything.
Yeah.
As James says, when you think of a project, you think of a goal, right? A start, an end, a goal, etc. Right? And I think that. I think I'd be lying to you if we've nailed it down exactly, but I mean fundamentally it's about trying to, in everything that we do, trying just expect better, right? Trying to look after. We've been in hospitality long enough to know what it's like to be a member of staff that's not being looked after well. To have a chef who's loud and obnoxious and unfair and screams on employees. To have bosses who are absent. So yes, there's an enormous focus on human resources and making sure that we, because the job can be tough. Like, it's hard. Like they work long hours. Our KPs, they're cleaning dishes, throughout the day, and like cleaning the kitchen, and it's tough. And so if you're not putting the right environment, then putting the environment really helps. So on that front, then people are paying £9.95 for our salads at the moment. You've got to earn that money. We think it's 100% justifiable because of our products and because of the quality and the quantity. But you've got to earn that money, right? So you've got to make sure that you create an experience that's above par. Then what else would you say?
I think from the customer perspective, when you walk past and you see it, I think, in my opinion at least, when you see the word project attached to an item, I think you do think, okay, that might be different than what I'm used to.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if you just call yourself like Spitalfield salads, right? People are like, another salad.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think it's a desire to make sure that in everything that we do, that we're always kind of moving forward.
Yeah.
And we really want to stay on top of every trend that there is, that we're not just kind of resting on our laurels, that we're always trying to reinvent ourselves. We always wanted to be very innovative in everything that we did.
Yeah.
And creative and promote change.
Absolutely.
And so I think the word project fitted in quite well with that.
It makes complete sense. I think it's a really positive word, and obviously the brand is still very early days, but it'll give you a lot of opportunity in the future to create change or movement or whatever you want to use the word for. So I think it's a really good addition.
Thank you.
So in terms of menu, I know you had a chef, or you have a chef now at least.
Yes.
Was that from the very beginning, or how did you go about developing that menu?
It was, again, a bit of a journey. We ended up fundamentally working a long time with a girl called Clementine Haxby, who was amazing to work with. She ticked so many boxes. She was a personal trainer. She graduated from Ballymaloe in Ireland, and she was also a nutritionist. She's just a great person to work with, and full of energy, and really kind of got what we were trying to do. So she came up with our core menu. Obviously, I guess that menu development period, instead of being a month, was a year due to COVID. So we'd have a tasting, and frankly, it was just hard for us to all meet or get into a place where we could actually try stuff. So it was quite an elongated process where in January we tried sweet potato, and then April we tried sweet potato with tahini. But eventually, through her hard work more than anyone, we got a couple of tastings out and kind of ended up on a menu we started with. And then when we actually moved to on-site, Clem stepped back, and we have a kitchen manager on site, and we have a great other chef called Kevin, who developed the menu continuously since then. Okay.
And how did you develop those dishes? Were they benchmarked against kind of existing operators, or were you doing market research, or was it just based on taste and kind of combinations of components?
I'd say it's a combination of all of that. I think incredibly, and that's probably testament to our joint experiences and also our friendship. It's with James and I have always wanted exactly the same thing for the salad project without necessarily discussing it. We've always seen exactly, from a food perspective, this is what we think it should be. From a design perspective, this is what we think it should be. So it really wasn't very hard. It wasn't like, I think it should be, a salad of the world. And then James was like, no, only British. I think we tried every salad in London. We tried lots of salads all over the world. And I think we got to one thing that we really thought is that we wanted a menu that had hot ingredients and hot components. And that was just because we thought that it would allow us to be more attractive throughout the whole year, especially in the UK, where some of the colder months are pretty harsh, and it allowed us to use some of the UK grown produce, and we also allowed us to just elevate the whole experience. If you've got a salad that has warm rice and warm chicken or warm salmon, it's more of a meal. It's easier to justify charging £9 than if you've got a very summery salad that only has cucumber and tomato.
Sure.
Right.
I think fundamentally we have a kind of credit of, the dishes together it's got to be Clem.
Yeah.
Obviously they've been tweaked with her and post her, but she presented at one point 10 salads, and our instructions were that we want to have a Caesar, and we don't want avocado, and we want a few other kind of things, but she went out and came up with all the dressings and everything like that.
Okay. So what was driving those decisions? Let's say we don't want avocado, which most of the world is doing,
avocado,
and Caesar.
Avocado was an environmental decision, where we didn't want to have that.
Yeah.
So that was that reason. Caesar was because I think me and Flo wanted to have what we wanted for lunch ourselves.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And then there's a few other things where it's like, we're big fans of, Flo is a big fan of salmon, so he wanted to make sure that was on the menu.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of chicken thigh compared to chicken breast, and so I wanted to ensure that we had that.
Yeah.
I like spice, so I kind of made sure that was in the menu. Flo made sure it wasn't, and too much plastic. So,
Okay.
so yeah, it's kind of personal preference of like what would we want to eat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really.
Massively.
And then Clem kind of covered what other people might want.
And
Okay.
with, of course, a structure in place. The salad project needs to appeal to everyone, and that was always clear from the start. So whether you're a calorie counter or a protein loader, vegetarian, vegan, pescatarian, flexitarian, whatever it is, the type of guy who only eats burgers, you need to be able to come to the salad project and create a salad that will fit your needs and wants and requirements, right?
Sure.
And Clem's done an amazing job at that, and I think that the structure of our build your own allows
the flexibility.
for that. I mean, it's insane. You'll get three customers in a row. You'll get one who will put like extra chicken, extra salmon, every possible protein on the menu.
Yeah.
Spends 19 quid on a salad, and then the next one will spend £6.95, and we'll just have a salad. It tastes like you're licking the ground, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
It was clear to Clem that was the structure that we needed in place.
You're making as many people as possible happy, essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, makes sense.
We had three kind of pillars of customers we wanted to target. So it was Captain.
Careful there.
Captain Health, Captain Feel Good, and Captain Planet.
Yeah.
Right. So
excellent.
between those three things, Captain Feel Good, what do me and him want to eat? Pretty much. Captain Health, what does Clem want to eat? And Captain Planet, what would all three of us be happy eating?
Very good. So they're your three consumers, essentially.
Yeah.
Very good. Do you still have those today, or?
Yeah, occasionally we'll be like, I'll look at Flo and like, that's a Captain Feel Good.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
Very good. And you mentioned sourcing and sustainability, obviously.
Yeah.
So how did you go about sourcing your ingredients, I guess?
So it was a complete learning process, and kind of still learning today. First step must have been where to find tomatoes in England on Google.
Okay.
Right, and you start with that, and then that kind of takes you on a journey.
Yeah.
Clem did a lot of the work, and she identified a lot of she gave us a good understanding of how it worked. You can, these are the different options basically, and then again with a certain amount of constraints in terms of how much does our menu has to be UK, how much can be non-UK, how much has to be seasonal.
Okay.
This is how much it's got to cost, etc. We managed to get to an understanding of what the supplying strategy would be. But honestly, I'm still learning about it today completely, and I still get contacted. I still find a better way of sourcing this ingredient, and I still and it's great. And I think there really is at the moment in the kind of in the food sourcing world, in the supply chain, there really is massive disruption, and there are young tech companies who are coming in and who are trying to make the whole system less opaque. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
And that's great, and we expect to see so much development in that front over the next few years, right? It's not. I don't think the suppliers that we have now. Sure. I expect things to change massively. God, I shouldn't say that. They're going to be like, "Oh, God, the salad project is leaving us." But yeah.
Well, that's great. You're focusing on that. It's a key area for you. Obviously.
Massive.
Yeah.
I mean,
sustainability as well, obviously.
It's huge for two reasons. I mean, it's huge because it's your product, and it's got to taste good, and it's got to be right by us, by our customers, and the planet. But also, it's your food cost, right? So I mean, we open a business. The idea is to grow, and so we've got to financially, it's got to work, right? And so the biggest variable that you can impact on a daily basis is your food costs, and that has the greatest impacts. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. So let's switch to the site then. So now you're based in Spitalfields. How did that come about? What was that process like in terms of finding the site and securing it during COVID as well?
I mean, I think it took a lot longer than we thought it would, which I guess is understandable. But yeah, we cast the net wide and far. I mean, if I'm being honest, Spitalfields was always a location that I would have loved, but never deemed possible.
Okay.
In, apart from maybe being tucked away in a small off-pit site, 800 square foot kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So we looked at loads of different places, from Victoria to central London to the city to eventually Spitalfields.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where we were looking at a site nearby, cycled by, and I remember saying to Florian as I took a video of it from outside, I was like, "This is designed to be a salad bar. It literally is like our shape exactly, all glass."
Do you remember what day that was? That was like the 15th of March, which is one day before kind of lockdown.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we just got in, I guess, before the whole of lockdown stuff. So
okay.
We'd seen the site before lockdown. But yeah, I mean, it's an amazing store for us, I think, in terms of there's obviously a few downsides, right? We're a bit set back from the road, behind some pillars, and you do have the market is a great asset, but it's also a bit of a curse in terms
this is
of
Old Spitalfields Market.
Yeah. As in, you can go in those doors and be pretty much culinary transported anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So as a salad bar, you've got to kind of appeal against that.
Sure.
But we're very happy with the location.
Okay.
No,
That's
sure.
quite a big site, 1,800 square foot. It's quite big for a quick service concept. Is that something you wanted, or it just came about?
Absolutely. I think, to be honest, we probably could have managed the ratio back of house to front of house a little bit better in the current site.
Fine.
But you learn first site you learn. And our kitchen's pretty tight, and our storage ability is very tight.
Okay.
But yes, I mean, I think for multiple reasons, James and I have relatively high ambitions with the salad project, and therefore we wanted our first site to be a true representation of what we want the salad project to be in the future, right? Often we would get asked, like, why don't you guys start with a little market stall and test a product and grow from there, which is a very legitimate question, and like loads of entrepreneurs in the food industry start like that, and it makes complete sense. But with us, our strategy has always been like, frankly, the site is such a huge part of the overall product that we're trying to create, like that we feel that our product in a little market stall,
it's a different experience.
It just wouldn't be a representation of what we want it to be. So it was we were always kind of like, we've got to go big or go home here. And I mean, we still don't know whether we're going home or we're going big, but at least we wanted to give it a real shot. We wanted the first store to look like what the 10th might look like. Yeah. And so we can demonstrate to ourselves, to our customers, to any stakeholders that this is what we want to do. This is our concept. We think it's got legs. This is what it'll be like. Are you interested?
Yeah,
basically. I think we always say that if you came to the salad project, you would have hopefully a 100% positive experience. 1/3 of that would be the food, 1/3 would be the service, and 1/3 would be the store.
Yeah.
Because I think salads in this country do have a relatively bad reputation, and so it does definitely help when people come into our store and they have, arguably in our opinion, a pretty nice aesthetic place, and kind of lots of space, and it's. Okay, well, these salads must be decent if they can afford this space. And I mean, I think there's so many kind of great places around the city. I know we're kind of on the fringe of it, but which are kind of holes in the wall where it's like, okay, well, I can't be bothered to wait in queue, even though the food's great, because it's raining outside and you can only fit 4 people in there at a time.
Sure.
And so we were like, well, if we do get queues, which we hope to and which we have. Yeah. When me and Flo are sweating bullets on the line and I look up and there's a queue of 50 people, they're all in the store, they're all dry,
and getting the experience in store as well.
Happily chatting, looking at the menu or on their phone, but peaceful, and you got the tables are full, and so I'm really happy, instead of having kind of grumpy people outside in the rain, standing hurry up, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it gives a sense of quality as well. I mean, it without spelling it out, when a customer comes into a big, large, open store where you can see that someone's at least put the effort to put a good design, you know, unconsciously you're already thinking about quality. You don't. I mean, very often I don't dare compare ourselves to the brand I'm about to mention, but it's good to illustrate the point I'm trying to make. Is very often we'd have people who'd come in and say, "Really? Like 1,800 square feet? I mean, what are you going to do with all this space? This is, you know, why don't you put more tables, etc." And we're like, "No, I mean, you don't walk into the Apple store and say, I mean, why don't you put 15,000 more iPhones? You've got the space, right?" And again, please, I'm not trying to compare ourselves to Apple, but that was definitely the idea. Is it's just part of the experience having designing the store the way we did.
Yeah, I think it's a very confident way of doing it, and almost provides a sense of stature maybe to the brand and to the concept. They're almost established, and you are confident that you will fill the space almost.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, James and I always used to say, like, we want to look like, and to an extent it's worked, because we get asked that question a lot, but we want to look like we are a high street chain from the start.
Sure.
And a lot of people come in and say, is this the only one? Or, you know, loads and loads of people. And then, like, very often we would joke to each other and say, like, the one thing we don't want to look like is, it's just because that's not who we want to be as a brand, right?
Yeah.
It's just we don't want to. We want to stay away from the kind of East London, slightly hipster, kind of like cute cafe vibe, which is great. Is where James and I hang out every time we've got a meeting, and we love those places. But that's not who we want it to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. Okay, makes sense. So you found a site a day before lockdown. Did you go ahead and sign the lease straight away, or were you hanging on?
If you say March, then we ended up actually signing the lease December 23rd. So it took a long time.
And that was holding out and seeing what was going to happen?
No, it was a combination. I think by end of summer we were like, this is the one we want. We agreed the figures, and then it was just back and forth.
We were incredibly lucky, because we were pushing hard, being like, I don't get it. Why is it taking so long? You know, we've agreed on the terms. We have a lawyer. You have a lawyer. Get a contract together. Let's sign it. Let's move on. I don't get why it's taking longer than that.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, thank God, because
we were really pushing for like December 15th opening.
Yeah, and it
would have been.
Yeah.
And then in the end, exactly. I mean, had we opened in January 2021, we probably would have never survived.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here right now. So we were. Honestly, I maintain James and I have been extremely lucky throughout this
well, it takes
years.
that as well. You need a bit of that. So you launched in May, is that right? It's just in time for spring.
28th of May.
Okay. And how was the launch then?
You always get that date wrong, you know. It's 29th. Someday it's 26th. Someday it's 27th.
One day, very important. So how was the launch? Did you have like a big grand opening?
I don't remember it. So.
Okay.
It was horrible.
Was it? Okay.
It was horrible because, put it in context, it's been 2 years and a half. You've been dreaming about this big opening.
Yeah.
Of course, we weren't naive enough to think that we were going to get keys out the door day one, but still, you expect a few customers, and
we opened on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And so, because we wanted to do Saturday, Sunday, therefore, the office workers who we knew would, we wouldn't be completely green for on if we were on
Monday.
Yeah. We had lots of friends and family.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Down, and
I remember very well. We opened at 11, and James and I. Now we're a bit more relaxed, but like back then we were like full uniform, right? So we'd have Standard Project t-shirt, Standard Project cap, the full apron, like the full gear, ready for a big moment, and like
ready to get smashed.
Exactly. 11 the doors open, and you can hear crickets in the store.
Yeah.
We didn't want to do any kind of promotions or anything, because we just didn't want.
We wanted to test the team.
Sure.
And so eventually you got James and I like in our full gear. I mean, there's probably a picture of that day. Just kind of standing outside our door.
The tumbleweeds.
Waiting for people to come in. We looked like, and then we joked. I remember saying like, there's nothing worse than when you walk past a restaurant and you can see the staff or the owners who are standing outside trying to, kind of like looking in the street. That signals this is a shit restaurant. Do not go in.
And obviously, because belts and braces, we were staffed up the gazoo.
Yeah.
Store, so you look back in, and you've got 15 people stamping lids. we joke with those staff who are still here, being like, first week you must have been like, this job's going to be walk in the park. After we've had a busy shift, they're like, didn't expect it to be this busy.
Yeah, reminds me. I don't know if you've seen the movie The Founder. There's a McDonald's story.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's the first or maybe the second site they launched. It was very similar.
Yeah.
They were standing there just waiting, and eventually one car came, 2 cars came, and it just started flowing from that point.
I mean, if we have half the success of McDonald's,
there you go.
Millions.
Well, good. You kept going and trade picked up, obviously.
Sure.
Yeah. So, what about challenges in those early days? And we spoke about the kitchen earlier on. Tell us about some of those things and how you've overcome them, how you are overcoming them.
Before kitchen, I guess other challenges I'd say we faced was just like rectifying mistakes we made in the fit out. And I think, again, thank our lucky stars, our store now looks a lot better than it did when we opened. Because we were lucky about, obviously we massively miscalculated how many fridges we need. But we're like, well, wait, maybe if you move that fridge under there, you can fit another huge one there, and we've done that, and it looks fine. I mean, I think it's relatively hard to have a store you think it's complete to then add another 4 fridges. We couldn't find any more fridges when we were designing the store, so we've added 4.
And they look great. We're so lucky.
So we did a lot of rectifying that from the beginning, and adding storage and all those little kind of nitty gritty bits. And then big challenge would have been when we kind of got I guess not court ordered, but lawyer ordered that we're in breach of our lease for producing too much odour for the neighbouring office, which meant some very sad days where we shut because we didn't want to continue to breach our lease, so we shut for a week, where we were kind of it was Cobra meeting-esque. We were trying to figure out what the next steps are. And
how long were you trading at this point?
It was heartbreaking because we'd waited 2.5 years to finally open our doors, and we'd been trading for like a month and a week.
Wow.
Like we were just picking up a bit of traction. This is July. People aren't quite yet on holiday. The office is returning. The sunny weather. Everyone wants a salad.
We just our shifts of not 15 hours a day, but 11.
Yeah, exactly. And then boom, literally the sky falls on us.
Wow.
And we shut for 10, 12 days overall.
Okay.
And it was horrible. You'd have James and I sat in the store on our laptops speaking to a lawyer trying to understand how to get out of this. And then you'd have people knocking on the door being like, you open? And we're like, oh.
Even for the staff, I guess, as well. It's very uncertain.
Horrible for staff. I mean, nightmare.
No, it was a pretty bleak time.
Okay. And then how did you deal with that and kind of get through it? I know you're still getting through it.
Yeah.
The amazing people at Ashurst, if you ever need a law firm, who are our big kind of neighbouring tenant.
Okay.
They have been so great to us in terms of they've extended the use of their kitchen facilities to us as a team. For what was originally meant to be a period of 4 to 5 weeks, it's now been and will be up to
6 months almost.
6 months.
Wow.
And so they've been great, but also our chefs have gone above and beyond to, frankly, something they never signed up for was doing a hell of a lot of exercise transporting food between 2 commercial kitchens. But they've done it exceptionally well. I don't think our customers realise anything is wrong, which is a testament to them.
They have no idea what's going on.
You'd expect, frankly, if you explain to any kind of restaurateur the operational changes we've done, they'd be like, okay, well, that's brave, quality should go here, but I mean, they've done incredibly well to keep it up. And we are awaiting the kind of solution which will be forthcoming at some point in the end of the 6 months, where we will be able to reopen again on weekends and
get out the other side
and use our kitchen.
Use our kitchen.
Amazing. Sounds good.
Yeah, it's a pretty big challenge, I think.
Okay. So in terms of your roles yourselves, so you mentioned you're very hands-on in the kitchen, or at least you were at the very beginning. Did you consciously not? Okay.
Well, I mean, everywhere, I guess, but not specifically the kitchen.
Okay. And do you divide your roles quite in a structured way, or is it more transient? Or
not at all.
Okay, fine.
Maybe it's a mistake. I don't know. But you hear lots of kind of two founders that, and it's logical, would say, right, so you do marketing, finance, HR, I'll do bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know, with James, it's never worked like that, and it's just not really how we work, and so we actually both do. I mean, we kind of both do everything, to be honest.
Yeah.
But to caveat that, I think it's incredibly organic who gets what.
Okay.
Whenever we do, stupid exercise where we had a line on our floor in our store, and we turned around and we got one of our team members to list 15 tasks we had to do, and looking at the opposite direction, we both choose who takes what.
Okay.
Right? And we got every single 15 of them accurately. So
the staff chose what you were going to do.
No, I was like, maybe like, set up new accounting software, and if I thought it was Flo, I'd go on my left and he'd go on his right.
Okay.
And we got it accurate every time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do divide it, but just very
organically. Yeah.
Yes. But there's very much a case of, and we work well in a team, and I honestly have so much respect for anyone who starts a business alone. Having seen what it's like, I just can't imagine how you do it.
Sure.
And I think that the greatest value about having a partner is making sure that you're not going insane. As in, trying to explain myself, it's very easy when you're working on something to have an idea and really kind of like, I'm going to do this, and like get really into that idea, and you need the temperature check. Like you need someone to go, mate, what the hell are you talking about? This is crap. And
sure.
And that we, although we divide some of the work to an extent, we both look at everything, because there's always a bit of like, no, mate, you're going off on one here. We don't need that. We need this, etc. And that works very nicely.
Makes sense. And I guess again, because you're relatively aligned, both of you, you're kind of generally going the same direction.
100%. I mean, there's most of its temperature checks. I think are very much more of a kind of so I would have done. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were very fortunate. We've always seen very eye to eye on everything. I don't think there's anything that we really fundamentally have ever disagreed on in terms of like business, on what direction we should take. And that's very, very lucky in that respect.
Okay. And in terms of building the brand and kind of developing marketing and exposure and so on, so obviously doing things like this together makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you're both kind of fundamentally part of the brand essentially. But and I know you have an external agency working with you as well. But is that something both of you are working on, or can you kind of take turns, or how does that work?
I think it's probably the area which we're keenest to expand on doing. Okay. Me and Flo, there's two factors of it. One, we love being involved operationally at lunch when it's busy, and two, we kind of don't dare take ourselves out of it. You in every kind of team, there's people you want to keep playing, give them the 90 minutes. And so it really is from like 11, we're there all the day operationally, but from 11 till kind of 2:30, 3 o'clock, we're very operational. Okay. So then in terms of time to kind of sit down and do all the marketing stuff you had planned, it's very much a joint effort, and it probably always will be, but it's divided in terms of, you do this task, you do that, collectively we'll do this. But it's something we really want to try and dedicate more time to. Kind of marketing, but business development as a whole, I guess.
Okay, makes sense. And how are you, and how do you think you will continue to stand out in the market? I think in general, kind of food service, and in particular kind of digitally, where it's so competitive and loud and noisy out there. You mentioned the food obviously standing out as different, and quality, the experience, all the attention to detail in terms of the brand. But is there like something you're kind of focused on to just kind of break into that and continue to kind of grow in that space?
In terms of digitally, I think at some point you've kind of got to accept that, proof is in the pudding that it is going pretty well.
Yep.
Our ratings on Deliveroo 4.8, 4.9.
Okay.
And we do a hell of a lot of volume in the evening, and I think that comes from the food being good, but also spend a lot of time behind the scenes on those things, making sure our menu's super flexible on delivery, and it's not easy to do that, right? It's super easy to put Caesar salad, choose it if you want, but you know, for a lot of kind of tweaking and everything, you know, you can swap chicken out for the tofu, and it all works financially, you know, and so stuff like that I think really does make us a lot better than a lot of the other places online. Our click and collect software is super well done. You know, it has loyalty built in and everything like that.
I mean, the real challenge, and to be credit to James, he's worked a lot on that, is to make sure that our digital presence has the same level of quality in its own way as our in-store experience, right? Like, there was a moment where we discussed having an app, and honestly, like, and they were, you know, we were like, realistically, if we want our own app, it's going to cost us, you know, tens of thousands of pounds, so that's impossible. So we can use one of those plug-in apps and just make it Salad Project branded, and then we just we thought about it. It was like, realistically, the digital experience there is going to be pretty average, right? And so we were like, no, okay, we won't do it, and we went down another route. And so I think, to answer your question, it's, you know, I wish I had the perfect answer to tell you, because then I know exactly where we're going. But I think in terms of digitally, it's just about making sure that whatever you choose to do digitally,
consistent.
It's consistent and is excellent and is a great customer experience. And if it's not, don't do it.
But we're very kind of aggressive on any kind of distribution. You know, there's not much we won't say no to. But as long as the product there is, you know, we won't say yes to a platform if it doesn't allow us to do certain things that the customer expects from us. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of, I don't think you see that many companies who really think holistically about, is this customer the same as this customer? Right? The customer in store at the Salad Project gets a pretty good experience, gets their loyalty stamp on their phone. You know, very well respected customer from our side. But you know, that click and collect customer in a lot of stores is considered a bit of an afterthought. You know, a bit annoying. You know, but we have, for a fee, obviously incorporated loyalty into that. And so that customer really doesn't have a worse experience. It has a better one, if anything. And you know, that's because the platform is very well done, in my opinion, and the loyalty is there, and it's always there on time and stuff like that.
And the store was built with that in mind. You know, there's a nice dedicated click and collect and delivery area, which has been strategically located so that it's convenient for the guys that are click and collecting. It doesn't disrupt people who are in store. You know, with the rise of delivery, it's great, but it means that you've got astronaut-looking dudes who come in your store all day long with a massive helmet in black like this, and you know, they really, and you know, they're not all. They've got one job: pick up the food, go, be quick about it. So they don't really care if they upset anyone around them, etc. So you know, we made sure that they didn't get in the way of people who are having their nice store experience and things like that.
Okay. And again, it's gone back to the attention to detail about every single element, and consistency across all platforms, all channels. Makes sense. So how are you feeling, because it's still very early days now, one site not long opened, how are you feeling about kind of where the concept is now and the offering and so on? Is it still going through a lot of development, or do you see big changes coming, or are you pretty settled?
We feel good. We did a kind of a relatively big menu change for October. September even so. Where obviously a part of that was updating due to seasonality, but also, you know, it was our first time after opening where we looked at things and be like, frankly, that's not selling very well, or you know, we don't need this on the menu, or we'd like to have this. Lots of people ask for that. So that was kind of a big culinary change we went through. And we'll continue to always update it every 3 months. And then in terms of the brand, I mean, it'd be nice to open again on weekends and see how that side of our business would go, because I think, you know, our location is busy on weekends, like very busy. I mean, it's hard to attract them because they're tourists and they're here mainly for the market and stuff, but it's very busy, and I'd like to see how we've grown as a brand,
the impact that has
now compared to when we used to be open on weekends. We get a lot of customers who are like, are you guys open on weekends yet? So we feel relatively good about that. But yeah, I mean, it's time for me and Flo to hopefully, you know,
think about next steps.
Put a bit of autopilot on. Get a new pilot in, and think next steps.
Okay, very good. And growth plans or ambitions? What's in the pipeline, or what's the vision?
I mean, I think the vision is to I'd say the vision is to become the kind of go-to place for a healthy meal in London. Would love to say maybe in England, I don't know, but definitely in London, because that's where we identify that there's a need, and that's where we've got a big enough market to be able to, you know, to grow a lot of stores before. I mean, Pret have 450 stores in London, so. Not that we want to get to that level, but I'm just saying that means you really, it's a big market, right? And then the kind, you know, what are the first steps on that ambitious journey is to open a second one, and we're working on that at the moment. Now it's about making sure that we can take a step back from the day-to-day operations now, and you know that the ship can sail on its own. That in itself is a real challenge. Way bigger challenge than I ever thought it'd be, and then it's about finding the right location. And
we're quite particular on that in terms of, you know, it'd be pretty easy to, I think, kind of be like, okay, well, you know, you could argue that some of the space in our store now, you know, is a bit of a luxury, and you know, let's go for something way smaller and focus on delivery, and you know, go to kind of some location where you focus on delivery and it's a small footprint. But you know, it'd be very against what we want to do, and you know, you got to stay true to what you want to be. So we're holding off, and you know, making sure we find the right site, which we're confident we will at some point.
There's value in holding off, because if we held off, we came very close to signing on the site before the one that we've got now. Just because we'd been searching for a long time. It was a good location. It was a nice-ish store, etc. And like, thank God, like now we look at what we were able to get in the end. We're like, it's a good thing we were patient here. And so we will make sure. Although we do want to develop quickly, and you know, we think that a lot of people want this out of projects. But until we find the right place, then we can do it.
Makes sense. I think you've done incredibly well, and considering the times we're in and what you've been through. If you're thinking of the next site now already, and we're still in COVID, it's pretty phenomenal, I think.
Thank you, it's very kind.
So, final question, you're kind of just coming out the other side of a startup, of a launch. Would you have any specific advice for somebody maybe sitting now with an idea post-COVID, and they're looking at getting something going? What piece of advice now, kind of looking back over the last year or two, would you give to somebody?
Mine would be very much make sure you do it with someone. You know, there's been some incredibly sad moments in this journey where I'm so grateful to have him next to me.
Shoulder to cry on.
Genuinely, but like, I mean, you know, he's my best friend in this world, and so when we're low, frankly, we don't stay that low for very long. It becomes relatively humorous pretty quickly, even though it shouldn't be. A bit of kind of morbid humour when we've been told that we're closed or whatever. And when it's good, there's no one better to have than your friend by your side to ride that high with and enjoy all that stuff. So,
makes sense.
If you got something you want to do, I wouldn't feel shy at all about trying to bring someone on in any capacity who you want to work with.
For sure,
makes sense.
That's for
me. You stolen mine, so I'd say two things. I'd say, it's a bit generic, but generally, you know, don't give up. Just don't give up. Like, honestly, like that's
the title of this episode. I think.
As cliche as it sounds, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. And so, like, you know, you're gonna go through a few shit moments, but it does always get better. And I guess my second one would be, and I'm stealing it because I was listening to a podcast from the guys that founded the Big Mama restaurant group.
Yes. And
they were asked that question, and I only now realise how valuable that advice was. Not that I followed it on purpose, but it said take your time. So once you've got a restaurant idea, like, take your time. Like, if it takes you 2 years to open it, it takes you 2 years to open it, because frankly, in the 2 years that was forced on us due to the pandemic, we never stopped working. You know, there wasn't a day where we weren't working. So in the end, we had an extended period to prepare the same project, and I think that's helped us a lot. So if it's restaurant entrepreneurship, then really take your time.
Makes sense.
One other thing I would say is, don't underestimate how much you will learn something. In terms of, like, there was many times where we would, you know, in the naiveness of us opening this, where we'd be like, okay, well, today let's talk about, you know, kitchen, you know, walk-in fridge specifications, and you look at it for the first 2-3 hours and you're like, quit. And it just sucks. I mean, I have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then 3 weeks later, you're like, oh, and you've got the VHVC system, and it's all just like you learn.
You
so
learn
much.
quickly.
Like VAT, for example. I mean, we spent years on years, seminars, me and him, being like, do you get it? No. Do you? No. And then now it's like, well, the thing is, what you got to do is and so just always
once you start like working through it, like
you will.
It clicks.
If you dedicate enough time to something, you will eventually become a master of it.
Yeah.
Very good, great advice. Well, guys, like genuinely incredibly well you've done. I think it's like fair play to you. It's phenomenal what you've done to this stage.
Thank you.
I really love the concept, the brand, everything you're doing. I think you're really set up for success. So
Thanks very much.
That's very kind. Thank you so much.
great stuff. Best of luck.
Thanks for having us.
All right.